Hello, good day, everyone. Welcome back. Myself, Ashala, and my dear friend and colleague Sue Grockmill. We missed you last week. I'm sorry, that was my bad, but we're back on and should be able to continue regularly on Wednesdays. So we're just looking for your questions to start us off this week. And you want to go ahead, Sue, and
Yeah, so
lay the
Carmen,
groundwork?
absolutely. Hi, everybody. So Carmen, Jacinta, she asked, Jacinto, her question is, what is happening with the water in the Panama Canal, and why is it so low, and why cannot ships pass?
Wow, yeah. Okay, so
Great question. That's amazing. Because remember
really,
that ship was stuck for a while? It
yes.
was that ship that went sideways, and they were like, "Oh, it's stuck," and everyone was like,
Okay.
"Open the ship." Super interesting. Hi,
Good
Ricky Green,
morning.
Canadian. Good to see you.
Okay, so here's us. I'm going to put it even a little closer to you all so you can see it. High Priestess, well, she shows up when there's something. Let's see how she's aspected, but it can be about something like a secret agenda hidden, something's hidden.
Wow.
And okay, to me, the magician is a revelation. So these are almost, in fact, they're right side by side in the tarot. It's like something's hidden and then it's revealed. So
Okay.
this is an attempt to bring awareness to something that's going on.
Okay.
So let's see who's involved in this. I'm going to lay out the three. Oh, Page of Pentacles, Knight of Pentacles, Three of Pentacles. Okay, so there's, and then we'll see the other. Oh boy, right? The devil is there under that high priestess. Eight of Wands. So there's something about trying to get awareness. It feels like there's three different countries or nations that are working on addressing something that is some sort of, this the high priestess, remember I said she's about hidden things often or secrets, and that's kind of challenging aspect having the devil over her. So this is something I would say a dark agenda. There's three countries or three groups that are trying to almost say feel like they're accelerating the consequence so that it becomes more obvious that there's something really going on. So it's in a way an effort to expose something.
Okay.
And yeah,
Does it have something to do with human trafficking?
let's have a look at that. Um, that could be part of it. Two queens facing each other, Queen of Swords, Queen of Cups. Um, that could be part of it. I mean,
Okay.
it feels like there's a whole lot
Yeah, because
coming out.
Carmen's saying bad cargo.
Right. Yeah. So it's yeah, and even I mean I am getting something to do with let's just look at weather modification as well and what's yeah. So it's a bit like there's a bit of a perfect storm going on here. That Page of Wands and the Judgment card, like
Right?
it's bringing things to a head, and it's more than one thing. So there are groups that are. It's almost like they're showing me if you wanted to expose something, like let's say you wanted to expose something that was either being transported by, like if you lived by a creek and you wanted to expose something that was going on in that creek, one way to do it would be either to dam it up or to dam up the sources that go
Yeah.
into that creek. I mean, I know this is the ocean, so you can't exactly dam it up, but there's something about, like, I mean, the canal, right? There's
Yeah, if
something
they make
about
the
the
water
canal.
low enough, then how are people going to maneuver? So,
And then what's happening comes to the surface. Yeah, I'm even getting something about what's actually happening below the surface of the water coming up. So,
wow.
yeah. Anyway, we're in pretty good hands with this magician here. It there is a lot about exposing something that's been secret, a secret either base or passage, and there's going to be there's going to be almost like there's some sort of divergence around how to monitor the activities at that juncture. So, like, there may even be a new system,
Checks and balances actually put in place.
but even a new system for the canal. Like, there may be work underway to do things differently.
Right. Because obviously there's been things that have just been passed on by, right? People getting away with whatever, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
that,
So,
edible
so
drink.
it
But,
feels like it's to accelerate the exposure of what's happening,
oh,
basically.
wow. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I just is saying it, and Carmen says, oh, well, that was awesome. Wow. And timely.
And timely, and I feel like when we look at a lot of the different consequences of what's happening right now in terms of weather modification or extreme storms or extreme whatever,
Yep.
and there is this accelerated for wherever that's coming from, there is an acceleration of bringing things to light, bringing things to the surface, bringing like, you know, it's sort of like an opportunity for us to look at what's been going on subversively. So we know that. I mean, we all of us here together gathering are we know this.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it again, I talked this week in my soul sampler about calling out the elephant in the room.
Yes.
And this is what this is. Like this queen here, she's the one that would want to like not ruffle any feathers. Just, like, well, I'm not sure. I can't be sure. I don't want to get anyone in trouble because I feel bad. And this is like this queen would be very hesitant to rock the boat. Funny enough, funny analogy. This queen is like, no, we got to call things out. Even if, it's almost like this queen is like, yeah, but if we make all these waves, if we get all this out in the open, like it's going to create chaos. So this queen is this queen of cups is very, sensitive. She doesn't want to, like I say, rock the boat. Whereas this one is like, that now's the time to be tough and call things out. And so whistleblowing basically.
Yeah,
And it
we've pussyfooted around things long enough, and it's just tiring now. Like enough is enough. So perhaps it's just at that point where it's like,
yeah,
this
yeah.
is what it is,
And
right?
and this queen and I feel like it's interesting because they're showing me this feminine energy. This one is like she's not just like hesitant to rock the boat or cause trouble because she's a scaredy cat. She's actually afraid for her family. She's afraid for,
Oh,
you know what I mean?
yeah. Yep,
It's
she's
like,
discerning, and so that's been the balance, hasn't it? It's like, listen, I could put it all out there, but I can't destroy everybody I care about.
that's right. So, it's gotten to the point,
Hmm.
where holding it in is more devastating. And this, all of these things as they play out on the big stage are happening in our personal lives.
Yep, yep.
So, in our families, in our personal
Mhm.
relationships, it's
Mhm.
like the part of us that is afraid to create trouble
Yes.
because we don't want to hurt the people that we love. We don't want to create more destruction. But there is this point now where we're like, all right, it's past that point of it's actually more destructive
Yep.
not to call out the elephant in the room,
Wow.
regardless of what the consequences of that are. And there's a timing thing too. again, it's because we see this has been moving this way. I want to say this has been a decade that
Wow.
this has been in process for a decade. I'm
Wow.
looking at this little page of pentacles, maybe even longer, maybe 15 years. There's been some kind of like, there's been awareness, there's been concern, and a desire for, to whistleblow. But again, like I said, there's been a lot of anxiety about creating, and it feels like part of why it's safer to do that now is there are some kind of alliances, some kind of backup plans, some kind of, so it's not like just going into oblivion. When the cabal was a lot stronger, you were at risk to whistleblow.
Oh yes, I mean, I talked to a gentleman in prison, one of the four Alberta prisoners that I've spoken about before, and after $600,000 and something like 650 days in prison, actually not even in prison, but in remand, where you're
Hmm.
supposed to be temporarily held, so no sunshine and all the punishments that go with that,
Hmm.
and no further ahead. Basically, a judge is withholding information, all of this sort of thing, right? So then it's like, look at what happens to a whistleblower. Look what happens to them, right?
And exactly, and that's why timing is everything.
Right.
The timing of when you expose. And that's a lot of why we've been talking about, the movie and the white hats and everything. And the timing, if you do it too soon, it's like you're almost waiting for your opponent to be tired, or you know what I mean? It's like there is a timing thing.
Strategic,
It's
right?
very
Yeah,
strategic. It's
yeah.
very, very strategic. And it's not just like, so this elephant in the room, and it's the same metaphor. This is where I like to get people, if you want to do something, obviously, we're all praying, but if you want to do something, look at how these scenarios play out in your personal life. Look at how you've got little mini versions of all of this subversiveness and, blackmail or like gaslighting, all of these things, whatever. And look at if it's the time to call out the elephant in the room out globally, you can make that even more effective and potent by doing it in your personal life. Like that's how you show up and weigh in with your consciousness in a proactive way. It's like
That
if
makes
the time,
tons of sense. It's like I can't take on a little world myself. Yeah, no one's asking me to, right? But in your own,
yes,
you start here, right? Start inside, and then in your own surroundings, right? Family,
yeah,
friends. Like I look at it too in terms of judgment. It's like, oh well, you're wearing a mask in your car. Then I'm like, where am I not seeing what I need to see? Where am I blind? Where am I like, oh, I'm awake. Well, am I like, where am I not awake?
hmm,
And I find
hmm.
things all the time. So where I'm not awake.
Yeah, and it's not an either or. It's not like, and I feel like people often wonder why I focus so much on the individual and the personal with all of this crazy stuff going on out in the world. And it's not that I'm in denial of that. As I said many times, I've been awake for decades. But because of that, I'm aware, this is a much bigger mystery than just there's bad guys out there. If there's bad guys out there, there's bad guys in here.
Right.
We are all complicit. That we are part of this,
Yep. We're
and
one. And
to
we
try
created
to,
this.
yeah. And it's not about shame on us. It's more
Hmm.
like we're not disempowered to affect change because
Yeah.
believe me, metaphysically, if you're working on this stuff personally, it's going to change the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah. Yeah.
It will.
Yeah.
Like your little contribution, don't underestimate that because if everybody's doing it, everyone here, all of us that are awake are really focusing on how we're complicit, how we don't whistleblow, how we're
Yeah.
right. And the timing, we all know that moment where it's like, Oh, I should have said something right then. That was my chance. How many times have you
Oh
had
my
those
God, yeah,
conversations yourself, right?
yeah. In the
Like
car
there
on
was,
the home, and
I'm getting the,
is
yeah,
right there, and you're like, "Mm,
right? You're like, they even like opened the door for me to say something and I didn't because I was scared.
yes, yep, worst, yep,
So this is a week, maybe a month, maybe even a year where there's going to be a lot of calling out the elephants. And
right.
as we do it, and how we do it. That's the other thing, how
Ah,
we do it, right?
I love it.
It's
Yeah.
almost like, partially sometimes it's letting that elephant kind of snag itself so that it thrashes around and creates a lot of attention, which is what this is, right?
Yeah,
Oh, now we've got these boats actually, you know, landlocked or whatever, right? So it's like,
I love it. Yes, and then we're
yeah.
all, it's got the world's attention. That's
And the
really cool.
eyes.
Yes, yeah. Well, and then there's things that are diversion, and so that kind of leads up to the next question.
Okay.
Is okay, so that's life is a bowl of cherries. Okay, so ask maybe the mall event in Florida is related to the release of the list. Activities
Hmm.
done in Florida, not too far away. Ley lines, energy bubbling, or ETs normally not visible to us are now with the lifting in the veil.
Oh,
And
that's some really great
it's a great question. And I
question.
just want to say, so I saw Janine in the quick draw. She
Yep.
talked about this just on Tuesday here, and she said what she saw was a diversion. So, but there's some other questions that might round this out really well. So,
Okay, so let's look. Maybe just put me a question one at a time, and I'll go in with specifics here.
okay, so what's happening with the event in Florida? Is it a release of the list,
Hmm. Okay.
right? Because activities done in Florida, not too far away. I'm not always apprised of all this information. So, and then the next question, and not to, I don't know if you can relate it, is ley line energy bubbling.
Okay.
And then the next
So,
is ETs. So,
yeah. Okay. So let's start with this mall event in Florida, which I'm also not aware of, but let's see what comes
it's kind of,
up.
yeah.
I'm just going to do three cards on this. So past, recent, past, present, and near future. Uh, yeah, it feels like, again, it's a similar kind of feeling where there's been a need to keep things kind of in, again, like not rocking the boat. Alchemy, the temperance card, that the water's going back and forth between the cups. And they're balancing between the earth and the water, literally almost walking on the water, this angel. So it's this feeling of it's a very delicate balance. Something is being kept in balance. And yet you see that pathway with the crown at the end of it. There's it's this balancing act is waiting for the timing to be right, is what I'm getting.
Okay.
Now we're getting a green light. The Six of Wands is kind of like, you notice this character, it's the victory card. It's small victory, little steps. You notice the big green blanket on the horse. I often call this my green light. So there's something
Oh,
about a green light, and now we can look at a bigger picture. So when you talk about releasing the list and stuff like that, it's like, yeah, it's bringing things to a larger audience, to a more international or global audience. You see how this person is holding the world, looking
okay.
at the world, but
Yeah.
also from a high vantage point.
It's a safety too, as in like from a safe vantage point, isn't it? Or
Yes, it is from,
okay.
yes, you're right. It is from a safe vantage point. So, yep, and again, one of the things you want to be aware of with this Six of Wands, we
Yeah.
have this idea, it's like, okay, the gates are open and we're going to just storm the Bastille, right?
Yeah.
Well, if you think about that, think revolutionary wise, it hasn't always worked out so well, right?
Right. Yeah.
Storm the
Yeah.
Bastille has not always worked out in
Right.
long run in
Right.
favor of the little people.
Well, we were also in the
S-
patriarchy in the time and in a very masculine energy and just like, let's, yeah, get her done.
Yeah, I mean,
Now we're
there's a
moving
lot
into
of
the
casualties when you storm the Bastille too, right? So this is like, in a way, it's going like there's another part with this card, which is a relay race. So it's like the next lap, it's like you got the green light not to storm the Bastille, but to take the next lap of the relay. So, and
Wow.
this card is the victory based on a lot of small hurdles that have been overcome one by one.
Beautiful, which has been the last few years, hasn't it?
Yeah,
Especially in the last
totally.
few years. So Garden Ho is saying basically aliens went shopping at the mall in Miami. LOL. Yeah, there were sightings of like extraterrestrials as it appeared, and then so there's all this hype about is it,
Okay, so again, we're getting that would bring to the attention, to the global attention. But look, it hasn't even come to our attention yet. So it's
right?
obviously on the underground channels, and we're
Yep,
not even all getting it even up here in Canada, for example, unless we're really scouring regularly. So
yep.
let's look at this phenomena with, are the ETs normally not visible to us now are with us and the veil is lifting. Let's look at that.
Right. Yeah. So we
Whoa, yeah.
wow. Okay. So what I'm thinking is maybe it's prepping us for what's to come. We're going to be seeing them, but don't freak out. Is that
And I remember, yeah, a slow, okay, you know how you can say ripping off the bandage, right? So we got these analogies, storming the Bastille, ripping off the bandage. Sometimes, for certain temperaments, that's the correct line of action. For other temperaments,
mhm.
that destroys them. That is totally
Right?
destructive.
I,
So, and I remember watching years ago, I was watching channeling from different ETs and different ET groups.
right?
And one of the things that they said kind of unanimously across the board was that when they do, like, they can do things like monitor our heart rate and our blood pressure and our own neural system, anxiety, neural, like, firing and all that kind of stuff. We
Wow.
can't we don't even know how to do that, right? I don't know how to do it. Like, I'm still
Yep.
learning how to self-regulate, and I can have a thought, 2 hours later I'm all wound up in knots, and if I really unpack it, I'm like, oh, it started with that thought that went through my head, right? If
Yeah.
we can't learn how to do that for ourselves, they have to monitor us. They have to, like, and they know. Even if we say, "Oh, I'm good with, I want to see them bring the ships down. Beam me up, Scotty." That's
And if
one
you
thing,
guys
but
are
you
loose
don't know.
cannons and we don't trust you not to use your ship.
Exactly. It's like, have you ever said to your friends, family, partner, whatever, just lay it on me, I can handle it, and then they
Oh,
lay it on you,
totally.
and you're
Yeah,
like, I'm
just
gonna.
like doing that. Yeah. Yeah, we can't even handle it. It's like my internet's not working. We're like, oh my God, like we cannot deal with these people.
So
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
they have a, just let's start with the acknowledgement, because this was this particular group that were saying, like, they will literally test the water, and because their main objective, if they're beneficial, you know,
Hmm.
aliens, their main objective is to not frighten us. Like, that is the worst way
Right.
to start this process, the worst
Right.
way. So it, and there's got a lot of Hollywood programming to work with unraveling,
For
right? And there's also, of course, there's ancient history where they have been part of nefarious agendas that have perpetrated us.
sure.
So
Right.
they're back trying to heal that with us,
Not
some
to
of these groups.
mention just being traumatized through fear for
All of it.
so many
All
years.
of it. Like, way back in our psyche, we have
Yeah.
memories of bad associations. And that just doesn't go. It's like PTSD. Even if
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
say, I'm ready for it, I'm ready, I want
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
you don't know when it actually happens what your body, your psyche, your neurotransmitters are going to do. You
Yeah,
don't know for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. And are they living amongst us? Have we been them? Are they? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Are they our cosmic family? So we're and are we alien? We are aliens to them too, right? So
Well,
it's
that's
really
it.
interesting, right?
And we could be, we think of danger as, oh, somebody's going to, like, shoot you with a rocket or a laser
Right.
phaser gun or whatever. It's
Abduct
like
you, even worse,
abduct you,
right?
or,
Shame.
but danger is creating a ripple in the universe that then takes another 1,000 years to stop.
Right.
That's
And what we
danger.
can
It's
do is
creating
just
a thought ripple or a energy response, even
right.
if we try not to do that. I mean, I've been open to this stuff for decades, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty aware that if they showed up right in front of me, I would probably my heart would be pounding, I'd be sweating, I'd be like, I don't know, is this a psyop? Is this like
Is it
it's
good?
like
Is this bad?
yeah.
And yeah, I can't. I won't lie. I panicked when my back was burning. When I saw that alien, I was terrified. I kept on changing my shirt. I'm like, please God, just take it away. I don't want it.
Yep,
I wasn't ready to.
exactly.
My back wasn't
Exactly.
ready. So
Exactly. So we're going to they're trying to help us birth beyond it's kind of like a fear matrix period. So until we're really
yes, you got
clear
it
of that,
here.
it's like in every area until we're clear of that fear matrix, which is a type of initiation ascension process, which it doesn't just happen. Like you've got to be willing to face your fears in the little day to day. You've got to be
I
willing
love
to
it.
do
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
personal work.
Not to mention being ostracized by your family and society for even speaking about it, right? So then there's that,
Yeah.
and that's
Then
real.
there's that. Then
Rejection,
there's
things like
that. Yeah.
that, right? In our mind, in our primal mind. Okay, so there's lots here. So Elizabeth April and talked to the Galactic Federation, told her that the veil is lifting, and now ETs have the permission to come, will be visible when they have the permission, like those in the mall. Okay, and then I don't want to overlook these ones too. So next, I do see you. It says many news articles coming out in the news about the Picton farm. Well, that'll finally
Mhm.
expose good old JT.
Mhm.
Yeah, which is our PM.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, I mean,
Picton Farm typo, is that, or what is that? So Picton Farm, yeah, yeah. So it's the Picton Farm was where all these deaths were found of all
yep.
these, and in the high
Women.
tiers of all the Indigenous women that were picked up and prostitutes, and
Yep.
anyways, they were all found at the Picton Farm. It's really disgusting,
Yeah,
and
and it's here in Canada on our coast, on our British Columbia coast. Yeah.
yeah, yep.
So, okay, let's start with you were asking the first question, which was what I
Okay,
was
the
pulling
Electric
cards on.
Federation told her the veil is lifting. Okay, so now
Yep.
the ETs have permission to come and they will be visible, like those in the
Okay.
mall.
So,
Correct, correct, correct.
again, that what I'm being shown is the veil is lifting. Now, this is interesting because there is an energy of when they come,
Yeah.
what do we want to do with them? This is what I often say. I want to just quickly refer to, I used to be part of this. I think I told this story already. I used to be part of this psychic group. And we used to we'd like get together and do not seances, but we would literally like do psychometry. We'd hold some article, like something that someone brought, and we'd all read it and see what we got. And we would sort of test ourselves to see how close we were and all that kind of stuff. And then there was a couple of members of that group that were really interested in experimenting with telepathy, with
Yeah.
levitating the table, doing all these kinds of things.
Right.
And what I was being shown and what I, expressed in that group was, yeah, like we already know we're psychics. We see miracles day and night. Like, stuff comes through me. There's absolutely no explanation. The phenomena is so extraordinary. We don't need to prove to ourselves that this is happening. So if we want to actually accelerate to the level where we're levitating tables, what are we going to do with that power? Like what
Right. What useful
Yeah,
use
like if it's
utility,
not for a
right?
purpose, if we're not actually like putting that into something just for entertainment or to prove something to ourselves that it can be done,
Right.
same with this. It's like if we don't know what we want to do with these ETs, how we want to interact, what does that relationship look like? What is
Oh,
that
I love
future?
it. So you're going to
Like
learn how to fly. That's
you,
nice. What are you going to do with
so yeah, like for example, I know you, Sue, when you do your hypnotherapy sessions with clients,
You're
you're
right.
often asking them, what is your intention? Like every spiritual practice, you always start with your
Yes.
intention. So,
Yes.
what is the
Everything is
intention?
given with the intention. everything to propel forward is driven with an intention. Everything.
Everything. Like you do an ayahuasca ceremony or a rite of passage or, some kind of like, yeah, some kind
Because if
of
you don't decide,
training.
it'll go wherever.
Exactly.
That's what's
Exactly.
huge. So I'm going to make it go right here. Right? I mean, I would even say in any kind of intimate relations I had with somebody gets directed right to God, gets directed to the good. Because if I don't decide, someone's going to decide where that goes.
That's right. So without,
See
like,
that?
we're being asked
Yeah.
to, in a way, telepathically message them with what we would like to do. If we want their help, if we want their presence, if
Yep.
we want their involvement in our lives, we have to put out the invitation. And it isn't just like, hey, come and show yourself and let's party. It's like,
Right.
okay, then what? Like, what happens to all the energy that get that? I mean,
Yeah.
that
So
would
can
be
you teach us how to be in a non-duality, how to heal the earth, how to heal one another, how to see a different way?
right.
Can you teach us? Can you show us?
Yes. So we start
Can
with
you give us
very and
technology?
humble intentions.
Right.
Not like, get down there and like blow up the White House. Like we don't want to get them like put if
Although,
we're asking them
yes.
to do things that are like storm the Bastille, the only entities that are going to come through are the ones that resonate on that frequency. It's sort of like it's
Right.
still in the old attack mode and it's going to be
Careful
ETs that
what
are on
you
a lower
ask for. Careful what you ask for. I want
and
the loving, gentle souls that'll come and help us open our hearts, heal the
exactly.
children.
And it seems like a detour. It seems like a detour because we're like, well, we gotta get these idiots out. Like we gotta
Right.
change this. But do we? Or do they just get themselves out and we create the new to replace it when they're
Yeah,
gone? And
and does it have something with them being out, them staying on a different timeline, and we go off on a different timeline?
yeah,
That's what I want to know. Could we?
okay, let's look at that. Well, yeah, look at there. It's right on the bottom, two timelines. So it just eventually becomes less and less relevant. You go back, listen to me talking 3 years ago, I was saying the same thing. I haven't changed my tune at all.
Okay, okay.
So,
Say it
yeah,
again. So basically, it's like it's not even gonna. We're not even gonna see them. It'll be inconsequential. Like, oh,
it'll
they.
become more and more inconsequential. So, but if you want change, the
Yes.
change it's not just the end result, it's how you got to that change that's going to create the real new paradigm. If you got to the change the same way as the dark forces are enacting their will, then you're still in league with them. You're still in frequency with them. If you got to the change by stepping aside, focusing over here on creating, you're like, oh, I don't know, what is it, opening our hearts and like focusing on what we can do in the world. How is that going to change? I mean, we've got some serious work to do. We got to get these big baddies out of here. It's like,
Yeah.
we don't know. We don't, all we do know is that if we attack it with that same frequency,
Yeah. Yeah.
we're still in that frequency. And if we
Yes.
detour into
Hmm.
a new frequency that is about, not my circus, not my monkeys. Like we
Yeah.
got enough to keep us busy for eternity on
It
this
actually
side,
just takes
folks.
all the focus off of them and takes all the power away, and they're just trying to
Yes.
constantly get attention, like
Yes.
narcissistic attention. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm being shown like the Wizard of Oz. And I'm
oh
being
yeah,
shown, we all know what that's about. And I'm being shown like if you just get behind that curtain and
yeah,
get fixated on getting that wizard out of there, you don't you don't go home,
yeah,
right? It's
yeah,
like, okay, the game is up. You walk away like that wizard is still, even though it's been exposed, it's still trying to do its thing, right? You just
yeah,
walk away and go, I'm not buying in. I'm not going to be spun by your web of illusion. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go home.
yeah.
Connect with my
Home,
home.
home.
Connect with my truth, my people, my future, this other
Oh my God.
reality.
So good. I love it. Yep, that makes tons of sense. That's okay. So what's coming to me, and I don't want to miss these questions that I spoke about,
Okay.
but I was just going to say what's coming to me too is like, so the predictions thing and how that's pulling us all over the place.
Yes.
Right. And so, and you alluded to that as well, saying like, like if we're looking at predictions that can be pulling us, and how do you know who they're channeling? And I'm really just going to plug this in. So then, but I listened to a prediction, and it was like, well, three-quarters of people are going to go to the other side. And it was like, we're so because those are the people who are holding the old in place.
Mm,
And I
okay.
would really, you don't have to do much on this, but it was like,
Oh, okay. Let's talk about predictions for a minute here.
okay,
Yeah. All right. I gotta call it elephant. Elephant in the room time, everybody.
okay, that's good.
Um,
Oh, for flip's sake. Okay, keep going.
yeah. So predictions. Let's just start with is it Sue, I'm going to mute you first. Oh no, I don't know if I can. Can you mute yourself for a sec, hun? Um,
I'm back and I'm going to be quiet.
okay.
So,
It's okay. uh, so predictions are very, very tricky
okay.
because basically, again, it's that same phenomena. We're 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 kind of not tampering, but we're like working with the forces of the natural law,
Well, and we're
and
creators.
we're creators, and we're also working with a free will universe. So when I work with predictions, it's all about stimulating positive growth. Okay, it's all about stimulating like creativity, expansion, personal development, personal awareness, feelings that there's always options,
The greatest
an
war.
great, yeah, expanded perspective on reality and what's possible. That's what my predictions, and I'm not making these up. Like,
Right.
I mean, I could never come up with all this stuff. Like, it's just, it pours in, and it's all about giving us a bigger, 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 expanded, big picture perspective,
Right.
which includes a lot of options that, guess what? They're changing every second. So there
Mm,
is no absolute prediction. Now, I'm considering what is the value of saying three-quarters of the people are going to exit. Think about it. How does that help? Like I think back in the early days of when a lot of this was being exposed, we needed to feel good about ourselves that we had the courage to face these truths and everybody else was asleep.
yeah.
And I think we took some comfort in knowing that we were going to be rewarded by being part of that quarter that stood in the fire and faced things.
Right.
But do we really need to keep that going at this point? Like, who cares? Who
Yeah.
cares? I mean, whose business is it? I'm not God. We're not God. We can't say how many people are going to make it or not make it. It's absolutely in a way like, yeah,
It's a spell
it's
cast, it sounds to me, to
it's
be
kind of
honest.
spellcasty. It's unnecessary. It's none of our business. God, the universe,
Yes, God,
as
you
we
got it.
evolve,
Yeah. Hmm.
I think it's still a bit like we're trying to not be psyched out. We're trying to be like, okay, if I do the right thing, I'm going to be part of that one quarter that ascends or doesn't exit or whatever. And that's why I'm doing this. But that's not why we're doing this. We're doing it because it's the right thing to do. Because if you know something, you can't unknow it. And you got to lead the way. But it's none of your business if you got one person behind you, nobody behind you, 10 million people behind you. It doesn't you're still going to do it. So, predictions at this point, we are stepping into the realm where they can do a lot more damage than good.
Yeah.
They can do a lot more damage
And
because if we
also,
start believing this stuff verbatim, like it's the truth and this is the way it's going to be, what if we've already accelerated beyond that possibility and the majority of us are going to make it?
and what
It
if we started to believe too Like I started to think too, what if we started to believe this is fine and benign? Like after all was said and done and people had made their choices, I'd rather think that sailing. I'd rather think that over and over again than look at someone like, oh no, you know? And so
Yeah.
'cause I think that's massive in terms of your response. Just like if someone's been, had a traumatic experience with abuse.
Yeah.
When a child comes to you, it's not the reaction, and holding that safe space is more important than anything
Yes.
for healing,
Yes.
right? And so for me, it just started to be like, no, I'm not gonna, people would ask, oh, did so and so, and I'm like, I don't know, it's not my business because I
Yeah.
didn't want that energy put towards it, right?
That's it. That's it exactly. So we're getting, and I've gotten better at this too. But I do say when I do readings, I've always said, if you see something scary in the potential future of someone, you're not going to say, "Oh, I think this bad thing's going to happen to you or to your spouse or to someone you care about or whatever." What you're going to say is, from your perspective, seeing that possibility, how do you want to support that person to show up in the best way they can without tipping them off and frightening them into creating that reality?
Yes.
Like, because whatever is going to,
Placebo.
there's a reason we're seeing every, like when we intuit and do predictions, there's always a reason that information is coming. It's supposed to show us something. But if you just take it like very base level, like
Yeah.
this will happen, that will happen, then you're missing what the medicine of that vision is about showing you. Like, these are in the realm of possibility. Like, three-quarters of the population? Of course. Of course, it's in the realm of possibility. And what would be helpful about us thinking that? It would be helpful for us to say, we could see a lot of loss in this next decade. And maybe we need to look at how we deal with loss. You know, Instead of saying three-quarters of the people are going to go, there's a lot of different loss that could happen. Even losing something that was terrible, but you're attached to it. I have so many clients that are trying to let go of old relationships, bad habits, attachment to material
Yeah.
things, fear of security,
The
attachment to
old
jobs
wisdom.
that don't work for them. And even when they let go of that stuff that they know isn't good for them, they're sad. It's a grieving process. So to me, this prediction about a lot of people leaving, just really what it's saying is there's going to be a lot of change, folks. There's going to be a lot of change. So we all, in our own way, need to get into our hearts and tune in. How do I deal with loss? How do I deal with grief? Even if it's something bad, you're going to grieve it.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So, Ricky Green saying timelines are different, so future events can change depending upon the situation. Yes.
Yes. And they can change one way and then back the other way.
So I'm really trying to get in. I have the choice with the timeline. We all have the choice at every minute.
And
Is
it
it
ripples,
this
it
one?
shudders. Have you felt, I'm sure we've all felt this. I know I felt it many times, especially in the last decade, like since 2012.
Right.
Have you felt where you're like on a kind of trajectory and things are going good, and then all of a sudden there's this weird shuddering kind of like everything feels wonky, and then all of a sudden everything looks devastating, and everybody around you is devastated and panicking, and you're like, we were all fine like a couple of days ago and nothing's changed. Those are those shuddering frequency, like enough mass frequency
Mhm,
has
mhm,
shifted and we're all over
mhm.
here. So
Yep.
instead of getting locked in that and going, okay, a whole bunch of us are going to die and leave the planet and then we just got to adjust to that, like just say, okay, wow, big changes are afoot. Pull myself back to where my version of the future is, which is I haven't a clue how many people need to leave or don't need to leave, how the earth needs to process what's happening or doesn't. All I know is that I have a vision of a beautiful new earth in my heart, and I'm taking every step that I have control over to move toward that vision, and that's my job. That's all I do, you know?
Beautiful. And we stop our creativity and our childlike wonder when we need to know what's going to happen and when is it going to happen. We blocked all of that off. So sometimes I feel like that's the old paradigm. That's not the new paradigm.
Yes. And so how then you can say, well, I shouldn't listen to any predictions then. It's not helpful. It's just making things worse. What predictions are for and what this intuitive work is for is to channel fuel, positive, constructive fuel for the imagination. If you can't imagine something, you can't build it. You can't create it. So it's just helping us keep a kind of big picture expanded perspective when we get,
Yep.
because we all do it. I remember Janine and I talking years ago. She used to say, I'm the worst at getting narrow fixated on things. That's why I've become a reader because I have to have my perspective expanded every day. And I'm the same. I'm like, okay, if I don't keep channeling guidance from everyone's guides, I end up in such a little rut of fixation. So we all have this. We all have that tendency to do that. And predictions and working with a divination practice like the tarot keeps my head up on the big picture of things and not just fixated.
Beautiful.
And
Beautiful.
that's why so many readers will say we don't want to just fixate on these, like, you know, about getting sort of an advantage in a situation of loss of control. We don't
Can
want to
we
just fixate on trying to control everything.
There's that, yes, and then there's like going down one timeline and getting stuck on that timeline. Did you want to go back to the Picton question? So we're
Sure.
going to expose good old JT, and then Garden Hose says yes, and noted defining Picton as Canada's Epstein. It
Yeah.
was a farm where women were taken off the streets of Vancouver. Thank you. Taken to the farm. And
Yeah.
it's wonderful.
Okay. So, yeah. Interesting as well. Um, there again, isn't this interesting? I've got this Trinity or trifecta card, which
Yep.
has shown up twice now today so far.
Mhm.
And what I'm being shown is there's going to be, it becomes almost like a platform for bringing together different interest groups all in alignment with, I mean, obviously the JT connection with that. Again, it's very revealing. It's very revealing. But the first part that feels important is almost like enough time has passed. This has been mostly in the realm of, government, law enforcement, the legal justice system, basically. This has all been, but it's about to go into other systems, meaning, there's going to be more, as things come to light again, there's going to be more working with Indigenous communities, with different interest groups that are about exposing political corruption and these agendas and these, you know, so it's like there's going to be a resurgence. It's been locked down.
Wow.
It's been locked down in this kind of like red tape, like bureaucratic
Yeah.
thing, but
Yeah.
it's about to be brought into the public arena. So it's going to be something that is, it's going to give an opportunity for different interest groups that have never had a reason to get work together or to ally around. You see,
How are the
interesting, right?
neighbors now?
Yeah, and interesting. We know with the Indigenous community, for example, that they have been unfortunately targeted in a lot of ways, and particularly with these, government agendas. And if they start to see that their own politicians that were the promoters of those agendas have been involved in this, you, and then you get awake people who are working on bringing awareness to the corruption and the political agenda, they're going to actually talk and share information. And a lot of people in that indigenous community are going to open their eyes and go, it's happening again, what happened to us
Yeah.
before,
It's a
and now
repeat.
we're going to switch allegiance and go work with these groups of people. So it's an opportunity to build connection.
Wow.
And it also feels like I get this sense when we look at like a more spiritual, metaphysical process going on, that these women, in a way, are a soul group that like basically chose this
Yeah.
experience in order to bring awareness
Yeah.
to what's going on.
Wow.
So it
I
feels
get
like
chills.
I got the chills too, and it feels like the first step was them saying, we're ready. We're ready. We
Oh,
want this to be released. So they're somehow released because of the timing.
oh,
And
beautiful.
what's going to come of this is new, like
Alliances, power to
new
the people.
alliances,
Like that's what I'm hearing. Like
new
not just
weaves. Yeah.
yep, and then and less trust for the the authorities
Yep.
and more trust with one another, right?
Because if you think about it, like, you could have like certain types of, conservative, like rednecks, pardon the stereotyping
Yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
You could
No,
have
no,
this
no,
kind
I
of
get it.
group or whatever, or, they, whatever. And all these different groups and organizations, and the indigenous groups probably didn't have much affinity with these other groups because they were like,
Totally.
we don't have anything common. They're our enemy,
Yes.
and now we've advocated for ourselves and we're getting all this government support, but this is going to open up the negotiations again
I
amongst people who've been divided purposefully.
Yes, I love it. People coming back together because of it. And then
Yeah.
probably those women working on the other side to
Yes.
support it. And then,
Yes.
I also seen it here a lot with kind of the woke movement, and I'm in a very conservative province, for better or for worse. And I work a lot with Pastor Art, just not that I work with him, but I volunteer under his
Hmm.
organization. And but to see them work together with the Muslim community, it never would have happened, I wouldn't think, in my lifetime. But all of a sudden they're like, hey, this isn't okay what you're doing, how you're
Yes.
children, you're
Yes.
seeing all the
So common ground and new relationships. It's like, okay, we've been,
right? Like,
yeah, and they
yeah,
can say we've been polarized on these topics and we're going to table that right now. We're not going to deal with that at the moment. We're going to
yeah.
look at what is, you're coming forward to help us with this and giving us all this insight, and all of this is being revealed, and there's support there, right?
Oh,
There's compassion.
yeah, she's saying, I feel that everything will be beautiful. I agree,
Yeah.
especially when you see through those eyes that it is beautiful, even though it sometimes seems like it's so chaotic or whatever. And then Ricky's saying the key is for humans to stay in the heart center for a positive.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And just JT wasn't expecting that alliance. LOL. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Thank you,
so
people, for coming together. Compassion is the currency of humans in the future. And then I was going to say the other one I heard the other day was community is immunity. That was
community is immunity,
yeah. That's
and okay, I want to quickly put out one little piece around that that's come
right.
in this week in a lot of readings that I think is going to be relevant to everybody. And then I did see a question back there somewhere about Texas power grid, so I want
Yep.
to go to that,
Perfect. Yep.
and
Love it.
then we'll sign off for today. So because community is immunity, I love that. I love it. And we all feel this, okay, to some degree or another. We're all feeling we're not supposed to do this alone. We're supposed to gather and collaborate. We're supposed to like look beyond the dividing factors and see the common interest, and see the mutual support and all that kind of stuff. However, at the same time that that's happening, what I've been shown this week is that we're also coming, many of us, to a juncture in our personal journey where what they were showing me is like a path, and we're crossing what was shown almost like a mystical portal river or something. to really step into the new paradigm in a big way. And what they showed was that this bridge that we're crossing is a little tiny suspension kind of footbridge that can only handle one person at a time. It's like you can't cross with your partner, your children, your friends, your family, your coworkers. It's like we got to go one by one. At some point, we've got to step into the fierceness of our own truth and stand by it and not wait for everybody else. So, interesting, right? It really has shown relevance this week in different readings. And, how long is that going to take? And what does that little pilgrimage or sabbatical, personal, individual sabbatical look like? For each of us, it's going to be different. For some people, it could be 2 or 3 weeks. For some people, it could be a year or two, but many of us are at this point where we're like, you know, I want to do something. I want to make really big changes, but I feel so alone in it. I don't have anyone around me that's ready, willing, and able. I'm trying to get these people on board and no one wants to do it.
Right.
Or, I've been disenfranchised. I've been disconnected from family and friends. All these doors are closing. People are telling me, this job is coming to an end. I've got to sell my house, or this relationship is ending. And it's like, why is everything closing down? My life is getting smaller and smaller. It's like, and your heart and your vision and your curiosity and your, you know, readiness to make some really big personal changes is expanding. So, just this consideration in these next few weeks or months that we are each of us individually going to find a moment, probably in the next 2 or 3 years, where we are at that bridge and we want someone to hold our hand. We don't want to go across by ourselves, but we've all got to go, because when we get on the other side, we're going to gather in new ways. We're going to constellate in new ways, and our loved ones may be a bit behind, and we can't drag them across the bridge with
Is
us.
this, yes, is this it? Is this it? Where
Well, it's
we're,
all,
is that
yeah, it's all that when you say this, like, yes, but this is happening all the time. Like, this split is happening every time you have a thought, every time you make a decision, every time you focus on it, you're either going one way or the other.
right?
So, what this is, and I was also shown a detour because a lot of people are going, well, I can't make a move, I can't do anything because, I don't know which way things are going to fall. And I've got to just hold tight and wait to see what happens.
Yeah.
And the analogy that was shown to me in readings this week, it's almost like a big tree is being felled. And, we don't know, like the ones that are felling the tree are saying, "Oh, it's going to fall this way or it's going to fall that way." But we also don't know, is that intel? Is that, which
Right.
side is that coming from? Do they want us all under it when it falls? So the message has been to just step outside of that line of collapse entirely. And what does that look like? I mean, for some people, it looks like maybe, I follow the channel of the capitalist nomad, and it's all about looking at other countries around the world. We've been brainwashed to think nowhere is safe and other countries are, anyway, there's this channel has like 400 videos on it, and it's a lot about just considering that for the period of time till that tree falls and we know where it's landed, how it's impacting things, we might want to just step away. We might want to just step away for a little while into a kind of detour personal sabbatical and focus on ourselves, focus on our healing, focus on our own work. So
Because I was going
these,
to say, Ishella, if I could add, like someone asked me if I had any fears, and I said that I miss what I came here to do.
yeah,
And it all seems so
exactly.
relevant now. It's like, I don't want to be all distracted, or I missed it because it was just like, I didn't know how to move or do something. And
Mhm.
so I think there's also
Mhm.
of us just feeling like there's something we came here to do. Don't know what it is yet. I know some things, but
Hmm.
then what does this look like when we're pioneering? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
and what did the pioneers have to do? They had to go somewhere else and start from scratch.
and in a past life regression, this woman had all of these souls in her heart. In her, it was like a rock, and she was trying to take them with her. And then she was at this council, like the Council of Orion or something like that. And there's the counselor between lives, and they were like, "Oh, we see what you're doing, right? Like, don't think you're hiding it. And we told you, you can't carry anything. You can't carry all these souls. Plus, you're trapping their, because she's trying to help them. She's afraid to let them go,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Exactly. And what I was also shown is that when we're on the other side of that bridge and we start to gather with whoever's there, you know, it's like, oh, hi, you're here. Great. Let's do something. And things will be so much easier to manifest because we're lighter.
Right.
And when we start enjoying ourselves, our kids, our partners, our family, colleagues are going to be like, what the heck? I want to be over there. And wait a minute. I know there's a bridge here somewhere, right? It's like we're not going to have to drag them. They're
Be
going to
it, live
they're
it.
going to want to come.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I don't know what
Yes.
you're on, but I want some of that, you know?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And I mean, we all know this. We all know this is how you actually really affect change. You live it and then people see it and they want what you've got.
Totally.
So,
And I would say that's what Jesus did. Nobody loves some, I don't know. I always liken it to third stage of AA. Everyone's got to quit drinking now, or, you start selling Mary Kay, or you just became a Christian, you found Jesus, and it's like, oh man, I'm going to run the house, right? And it's like, same sort of thing. You just be
yeah,
it.
you
Nothing
be
much
it.
to
You be
say.
it. And the people
You radiate it,
who are
right?
close to that bridge are going to be like, "Hey, show me. Give me the GPS coordinates. I'm ready."
Remember you owe me one, right?
And we're like, "Okay, right there. There it is. Go for it. This is how I did it."
That's
Yeah.
really cool. I
So
love it. That's a
beautiful.
beautiful analogy. Yeah,
It
because there's so
is.
much out there pulling, like, yeah, and so many things that are put out there, like facts that are taking us all over the place. So
Totally.
remember
The
to hit the like button. Emma said so. Yeah, agreed. Hit the like
Thank you.
button,
Thank you.
share, subscribe, do all of that. Everybody knows how YouTube works, and this is great, great work, Kashala. So it's much appreciated. And
Thank you.
yeah, I really
Thank
look
you.
forward to these every week, and obviously lots of people do. So
Totally. Okay, so we've got that last question on the power grids. Do you want to read it off
oh,
for me, Sue, please? Thank
yeah,
you. Ooh, sun card
um,
came up. Sun card.
on the power grid.
Yeah.
Okay, is this okay? So this is Nikki. Is the Texas power grid going to hold up, or are we going to be without electricity and water during the cold that is coming?
Okay.
Well, and after what you were through a few years ago when all your pipes burst in Texas or whatever happened there.
Okay.
Gosh, I'll tell you that if that happened here in Canada, it is 40 below. Like it is so cold here right now. I can't even
Yeah,
imagine.
look at us. Us in our sweaters. It's
It's crazy.
40 where you are. It's only like 15 to 20 where I am. So
It's not quite 40. I'm exaggerating,
it's
but
balmy where I am.
yes, tropical.
We're talking below zero, folks, not
Yeah,
above zero.
yeah,
Okay.
cold, yeah.
So, yeah, let's start off with um, interesting. We're back to the beginning of this reading, and we're looking at things that expose things. What I'm getting is I'm getting 8 weeks to 4 months, so 2 to 4 months, and I'm feeling like what I'm being shown is perhaps what do they call those rolling blackouts? So I'm not seeing an entire grid collapse,
Okay.
but I am seeing like rolling blackouts for somewhere between 2 to 4 months from now. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, what's important? what's important is A, to say, this is happening for a reason. This is showing, this is exposing something. Okay. And it's also about looking at consumption. It's about looking at, like, there's a little bit of this feeling this spring, well, spring, not spring, winter into spring, the next 4 months, where we're all going to be sort of tallying up. I've started doing this. I've been doing a food diary. So I want, for the whole year 2024, I want to record everything I eat, not because of calories and diets and stuff, but I want to actually know what I consume in a year so that I know if I'm looking after myself with food, this is what I eat when I'm living well. This is what I eat. So there's something about this is giving everybody an opportunity to look at their consumption, to look at things like waste, to look at, like, maybe tightening things up a bit. There's nothing like going without to bring your awareness to, well, we didn't actually need to do that. We didn't need to do it that way. So I'm getting the people, if they take this as a gift to bring adaptation that's going to actually be more in alignment with where we're going in the future, that is a cool way of looking at it.
Amazing. You
Secondly,
can work to your advantage. Amazing.
work it to your advantage.
Oh,
Secondly, don't get attached to poor me crying over the spilled milk. If you start building a story of, oh, this is terrible and we're victims and the poor us, it's actually somehow going to turn out in the next 3 to 5 years as a better thing. Like, whatever's going on right now, you're going to be better off than a lot of other states and regions because of whatever, however this is going to be managed and re rebuilt is going to be better.
yeah,
So don't start going into despair and, yeah, there's some grieving, but don't start making a big story about it because we got two fives here, 5 of Pentacles, 5 of Cups, feeling abandoned, feeling disappointed, feeling sorry for ourselves. No, look at it as the universe is trying to stabilize something and build a new platform for a better future for your state. So, again, how you address this and how you respond to it is going to make a really big difference.
that's beautiful. That's nice.
Yeah, thank you.
It's not too difficult for you when it does happen, but yeah, if we could try to make like the universe is happening for us and nothing and
And
just
not to us.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah, and try to make it into a positive somehow, positive changes.
Yeah.
Any
Yeah.
chance
And
you want to pull a card for my friend Tony in prison, the one who's just fired his lawyer?
mhm,
So he fired his lawyer because they spent $600,000 since he's been in prison, and basically they've just been like the judge is like, well, I'm not giving out any information, and they've just if you follow Alberta prisoners or Alberta
mhm,
political prisoners, you'll get all the information there on Facebook. But
mhm.
pretty cruel and unusual punishment for these people. So yeah, he's fired his lawyer. Just wondering if because he's like, you've got to be kidding! What have you done? And then so he's representing himself, and the judge is like, yeah, we highly recommend you don't. And he's like, I'm not allowed online. I'm not allowed to access any documents. I'm not allowed internet, computer, anything. So he's trying to get some kind of access.
Hmm. Interesting. This card, the Chariot, almost feels like asylum, like political asylum.
Like Julian Assange.
Yeah. So that's a bit of a cliffhanger, but that's what I'm seeing. It's almost like these little efforts, and it's interesting. They're saying like that amount of money that you said, huge amount, and yet like a drop in the bucket, the big bucket, right?
Mhm.
Doesn't even make a dent. So, you know, um, and now sort of like there's something about his willingness to just walk away, and he may walk away. stay tuned for more about that. I don't know.
So was he supposed to take political asylum or he is
Yep,
going?
yep. Two travel cards. Yep. So, woo, cliffhanger. Maybe we can look at that again next week after you gather up some more perspective on it between now and then. Yeah.
Thank you.
Blessings, everyone. Have a beautiful week. Please check out the links below if you'd like to book a session with me or with Sue. And also, I've got my tarot classes that I've postponed for 3 weeks, so I'm starting them in early February, and you can check the link below to get registered for that as well. So have a beautiful week, and we'll see you here next Wednesday.
Amazing. Thank you. See you next week.
Bye, everybody.